I stood in the doorway of my new bedroom, my old suitcase clutched in my hand like a shield. The floral wallpaper, faded and peeling at the corners, seemed to mock me with its cheerful pattern. This wasn't how I'd imagined spending my 36th birthday. "Sarah, dear, do hurry up. We haven't got all day to wait for you to settle in." Olivia's voice rang out from downstairs, sharp as a knife. I took a deep breath, willing myself not to snap back. It had only been 3 hours since Ethan and I had arrived at his parents' house, and already I was regretting our decision to move in. "Coming, Olivia," I called back, trying to keep my tone neutral. I set my suitcase on the bed and headed downstairs, plastering on a smile that felt more like a grimace. In the living room, Olivia sat perched on her favorite armchair, a cup of tea balanced delicately in her hand. George, my father-in-law, barely looked up from his newspaper as I entered. "There you are," Olivia said, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. "I was beginning to think you'd gotten lost up there. It's not a very big house, you know." I bit back a retort. "Just unpacking a few things," I said instead. Ethan emerged from the kitchen, a plate of cookies in hand. "Mom made your favorite, honey," he said, smiling at me. "Oatmeal raisin." I forced a smile. "That's thoughtful." Olivia knew full well I hated raisin cookies. "Well, sit down, Sarah," Olivia instructed. "We need to discuss how things will work around here." I sank onto the couch, feeling like a child about to be scolded. Ethan sat next to me, oblivious to the tension in the room. "Now," Olivia began, setting her teacup down with a clink. "We're happy to have you both here while Ethan gets settled in his new job. But we do have certain expectations." "Of course," I murmured, my stomach churning. "First, I'll need your help with the housework. I'm not as young as I used to be, and it's only fair you contribute." I nodded, even as I felt a flare of indignation. I had a job too, after all. "And Sarah," Olivia continued, her voice taking on a softer tone that immediately put me on edge, "I do hope you'll be able to give us some good news soon. A grandchild would brighten up this old house so much." I felt Ethan stiffen beside me. Our struggles with fertility were a sore point, one I'd hoped to avoid discussing. "Mom," Ethan said, a warning in his voice. "What?" Olivia asked, all innocence. "I'm just saying at your age, Sarah, you really can't afford to wait much longer." The room fell silent. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, a mix of embarrassment and anger. "I think that's enough for now," George suddenly spoke up, lowering his newspaper. "Let them get settled in first, Olivia." I shot him a grateful look, but he had already retreated behind his paper again. "Well," Olivia sniffed, "I suppose we can discuss the rest later. Ethan, why don't you help your father bring in the rest of the luggage?" As the men left the room, I found myself alone with Olivia. She leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. "I do hope you'll make an effort to fit in here, Sarah," she said softly. "After all, we wouldn't want Ethan to regret bringing you back home with him, would we?" Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Bella. "How's the move going? Need an escape plan yet?" I looked up at Olivia's smug face, then back at my phone. "You have no idea," I muttered under my breath, already plotting my next move. The alarm blared at 5:30 a.m., jolting me awake. I groaned, remembering where I was. 2 weeks had passed since we'd moved in with Ethan's parents, and each day felt longer than the last. I stumbled downstairs, desperate for coffee. To my surprise, Olivia was already in the kitchen, bustling around in her floral apron. "Oh, Sarah," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I didn't expect you up so early. I thought you'd sleep in, what with your situation." I bristled. "My situation? Well, dear, I just mean that without children to care for, you must have so much free time." I bit my tongue, reaching for the coffee pot. "Actually, I have an early meeting. I'm heading into the office today." Olivia's eyebrows shot up. "The office? But surely you're not still working. Ethan's new position pays so well, and there's so much to do around the house." Before I could respond, Ethan appeared in the doorway, already dressed for work. He kissed me on the cheek, oblivious to the tension. Morning, honey. Mom. Thanks for making breakfast. Of course, sweetie, Olivia cooed. Someone has to take care of you. I clenched my jaw, pouring my coffee into a travel mug. I've got to go. Have a good day, Ethan. As I headed for the door, Olivia called out, "Oh, Sarah? Don't forget we're having the Johnsons over for dinner tonight. I'll need you back by 4 to help prepare." I froze. I can't. I have plans with Bella tonight. Olivia's face hardened. Well, you'll just have to cancel. Family obligations come first. I looked to Ethan for support, but he was engrossed in his phone. Sorry, honey, he muttered. It completely slipped my mind to tell you. But Mom's right. We can't cancel on the Johnsons. Fuming, I stormed out of the house. In my car, I called Bella. Hey, girl, she answered. Ready for margaritas tonight? I'm so sorry, Bella. Isait. I have to cancel. Olivia's sprung a dinner party on me. Bella groaned. Again? Sarah, you can't keep letting her walk all over you like this. I know. But what can I do? It's Ethan's family. And what about your family? Your friends? Your life? Bella's voice softened. I'm worried about you, Sarah. You're not yourself lately. I felt tears pricking at my eyes. I'm fine, I lied. It's just an adjustment period. After hanging up, I sat in my car trying to compose myself. That's when I noticed Ethan hurrying out of the house, phone pressed to his ear. Yes, I can make it, he was saying. No, don't worry. Sarah won't suspect a thing. My heart dropped. What was he hiding? The rest of the day passed in a blur. I returned home at 4 as ordered to find Olivia in a frenzy. There you are, she exclaimed. Quick, start on the salad. And for heaven's sake, change into something more appropriate. The Johnsons have a lovely single son, you know. I stared at her, incredulous. Olivia, I'm married. To your son. She waved her hand dismissively. Oh, you know what I mean. It never hurts to keep your options open. Just then George wandered in. Where's Ethan? He asked. Wasn't he supposed to be home early for this shindig? Olivia's face tightened. He called. Said he was held up at work. Again. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. George gave me a long look. You know how it is with new jobs, Sarah. Lots of late nights. Something in his tone made me pause. Did he know something I didn't? As I chopped vegetables, my mind raced. Ethan's secretive phone call, his constant late nights, Olivia's strange comments. What was really going on in this family? The doorbell rang, signaling the Johnsons' arrival. I plastered on a smile, steeling myself for an evening of small talk and thinly veiled insults. But as I moved to greet our guests, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your husband isn't at work. Meet me tomorrow if you want the truth. My hand shook as I stared at the screen. Who was this and what did they know? As Olivia called for me to hurry up, I realized one thing was certain. My life in this house was about to get a lot more complicated. The mysterious text message haunted me all night. I tossed and turned, Ethan's absence in our bed a glaring reminder of the growing distance between us. When morning finally came, I was exhausted but determined to uncover the truth. I waited until Olivia and George left for their weekly bridge game before sneaking into Ethan's study. My heart raced as I rifled through his desk drawers, searching for any clue about his late nights and secretive behavior. That's when I found it. A crumpled receipt tucked away in the back of a drawer. My hands shook as I smoothed it out. It was for a hotel room in Texas, dated just 2 weeks ago. Ethan had told me he was on a business trip to Chicago that week. What are you doing? I whirled around to find George standing in the doorway, his eyes narrowed. I was looking for a pen, I stammered, quickly shoving the receipt into my pocket. George's gaze lingered on me for a moment before he shrugged. Olivia forgot her glasses. I came back to get them. As he turned to leave, he paused. Sarah, sometimes it's better not to go looking for trouble. You might not like what you find. His words sent a chill down my spine. Before I could respond, he was gone. I retreated to my room, my mind reeling. I pulled out my phone, ready to confront Ethan, when it suddenly rang. An unknown number. Hello. I answered cautiously. Is this Sarah Miller? A woman's voice, unfamiliar and hesitant. Yes, who's this? My name is Stella. I think we need to talk about your husband. My blood ran cold. What about my husband? I'm so sorry. Stella's voice cracked. I didn't know he was married. He told me he was divorced. The room spun around me. I gripped the edge of the desk to steady myself. How long? I managed to choke out. 6 months, Stella whispered. I'm in Texas. He visits every few weeks. I thought we had a future together. I ended the call, my entire body numb. 6 months. Half a year of lies, of betrayal. And suddenly, so many things clicked into place. The late nights, the mysterious business trips, Olivia's snide comments about keeping my options open. As if summoned by my thoughts, my phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Working late again. Don't wait up. Anger surged through me, hot and fierce. Without thinking, I stormed downstairs and out the front door. I needed air. Needed to escape the suffocating walls of this house filled with lies. I found myself at a nearby park, collapsing onto a bench. Tears streamed down my face as I pulled out my phone and dialed Bella's number. Sarah? What's wrong? Bella's concerned voice was a lifeline. Through sobs, I poured out everything. The receipt, Stella's call, my suspicions about Olivia and George knowing. Oh, honey, Bella sighed. I'm so sorry. What are you going to do? I took a deep breath, wiping my tears. I don't know, but I can't stay in that house anymore. I can't pretend everything's okay. Come stay with me, Bella offered immediately. We'll figure this out together. As I hung up, a new text came through. From Ethan. Where are you? Mom says you left hours ago. I stared at the screen, a cold determination settling over me. No more lies. No more manipulation. It was time for the truth to come out, and for me to take control of my life again. With shaking fingers, I typed out a reply. We need to talk. Now. And you'd better bring your parents too. It's time for everyone to face the truth. I hit send, my heart pounding. There was no going back now. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. My life was about to change dramatically, and I was ready to fight for myself. I paced the living room, my heart pounding as I waited for Ethan and his parents to return. The house felt like a powder keg, ready to explode at any moment. When I heard the car pull up, I steeled myself for the confrontation to come. Ethan burst through the door first, his face a mask of concern. Sarah, what's going on? Are you okay? I laughed bitterly. Am I okay? That's rich, Ethan. Why don't you tell me about your trips to Texas? His face paled. Behind him, Olivia and George exchanged glances. I don't know what you're talking about, Ethan stammered. I pulled out the crumpled receipt. Don't lie to me anymore. I know about Stella. The room fell silent. Ethan's shoulders slumped in defeat. How long have you known? He whispered. Long enough, I spat. 6 months, Ethan? How could you? Olivia stepped forward, her face a picture of false sympathy. Now, Sarah, let's not be hasty. These things happen in marriages. I'm sure if you just tried harder, Dash. Tried harder. I whirled on her. You knew about this, didn't you? Both of you did. George wouldn't meet my eyes, but Olivia lifted her chin defiantly. We were protecting our son. You weren't making him happy. What else was he supposed to do? Her words hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled back, my mind reeling. You encouraged this? Ethan reached for me. Sarah, please. We can work this out. I'll end things with Stella, I promise. I jerked away from his touch. Don't you dare touch me. How many times have you lied to my face? How many times have you all sat around this dinner table, laughing at me behind my back? The tears I'd been holding back finally spilled over. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. I want a divorce, I said, my voice shaking. Ethan's face crumpled. Sarah, no. Please, we can fix this. I love you. Love me. I laughed harshly. You don't even know the meaning of the word. I turned to Olivia and George. And you too. You're supposed to be my family. How could you do this to me? Olivia sniffed. We were looking out for Ethan's best interests. Something you clearly haven't been doing. That was the last straw. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Where are you going? Ethan called after me. I paused at the threshold. Away from here. Away from all of you. I'm done being your punching bag, your scapegoat, your joke. As I walked out, I heard Olivia's shrill voice behind me. You'll be back. Where else do you have to go? I smiled to myself as I got in my car. They had no idea what I was capable of. No idea that I'd been preparing for this moment, squirreling away money, making plans. I drove to Bella's house, my mind racing with possibilities. As I pulled up, my phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Please come home. We can talk about this. I deleted it without responding. Then I called Stella. Hello. Her voice was hesitant. Stella, it's Sarah, Ethan's wife. I think we need to talk more. Are you free tomorrow? There was a pause, then, yes, I think that's a good idea. As I hung up, a plan began to form in my mind. Ethan, Olivia, and George had no idea what was coming. They thought they could manipulate me, use me, discard me when it suited them. But they were about to learn a hard lesson. I knocked on Bella's door, feeling lighter than I had in months. When she opened it, concern etched on her face, I smiled. I need your help, I said. It's time to take back control of my life. Bella nodded, a fierce glint in her eye. I'm with you all the way. What's the plan? As I stepped inside, I felt a surge of determination. The old Sarah, the doormat, the victim, was gone. In her place stood a woman ready to fight for herself, no matter the cost. Let the games begin. I woke up on Bella's couch, my head pounding from a night of tears and planning. As I sipped the coffee Bella handed me, my phone buzzed incessantly. Missed calls and messages from Ethan and his parents flooded my screen. You don't have to answer them, Bella said gently. I shook my head. No, I need to face this head-on. With trembling fingers, I dialed Ethan's number. He answered on the first ring. Sarah, thank God. Please come home. We can work this out. I'm not coming home, Ethan, I said firmly. But I am coming to get my things. I'll be there in an hour. Before he could protest, I hung up. Bella squeezed my hand. Want me to come with you? I nodded gratefully. Please. I don't trust myself to be alone with them. An hour later, we pulled up to the house. Ethan was waiting on the porch, looking haggard. Olivia hovered behind him, her face pinched with disapproval. As I walked up the path, Ethan reached for me. Sarah, please. I made a mistake. I'll end things with Stella, I swear. I stepped back. It's too late for that, Ethan. Where's George? Olivia sniffed. He's not feeling well. All this drama has upset him. I laughed bitterly. How convenient. We entered the house, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. As I moved to go upstairs, Olivia blocked my path. Now, Sarah, she began, her voice sickly sweet. Let's not be hasty. Every marriage has its rough patches. If you just try harder, try harder. I exploded. You encouraged your son to cheat on me. You knew about Stella all along. Olivia's face hardened. We did what was best for Ethan. You weren't making him happy. You couldn't even give him children. Her words hit me like a slap. Beside me, Bella gasped. How dare you? I hissed. You have no idea what we've been through, what I've been through. Ethan stepped forward. Mom, that's enough. This isn't Sarah's fault. But the damage was done. In that moment, I saw Olivia for who she truly was. A manipulative, cruel woman who had never accepted me. I want you both out, I said, my voice shaking. Now. I'm packing my things, and when I come down, I don't want to see either of you. Olivia opened her mouth to argue, but Ethan gently led her away. As they left, I heard him murmur, You've gone too far this time, Mom. Bella and I went upstairs. As I packed, she kept watch at the door. Suddenly, she called out, Sarah, you need to see this. I joined her at the window. In the driveway, Ethan and Olivia were having a heated argument. As we watched, George emerged from the garage looking furtive. "What's he doing?" Bella whispered. We saw George hand Ethan an envelope. Ethan opened it, his face paling as he read its contents. Curiosity got the better of me. I crept downstairs and out the side door, Bella close behind. We hid behind a bush, close enough to hear their conversation. "You can't be serious," Ethan was saying. "This will destroy her." Olivia's voice was cold. "It's for your own good, Ethan. Sarah needs to know her place. Once she realizes she has nothing, she'll come crawling back." My blood ran cold. What were they planning? George noticed us first. His eyes widened in alarm. "Ethan," he warned. Ethan whirled around, seeing us. The envelope fell from his hand, papers spilling out. I lunged forward, snatching one before Ethan could stop me. My heart stopped as I read it. Bank statements, transfer records, all showing that Ethan had been systematically draining our joint accounts for months. The money I thought we were saving gone. I looked up at Ethan, tears blurring my vision. "How could you?" His face crumpled. "Sarah, I can explain dash." But I was already running, Bella right behind me. We jumped in her car and sped away, leaving Ethan calling my name in the driveway. As we drove, a cold determination settled over me. They thought they could leave me with nothing? They had no idea who they were dealing with. I turned to Bella, my mind made up. "I need your help. It's time to show them exactly what I'm capable of." Bella nodded grimly. "Whatever you need. Where do we start?" A plan was already forming in my mind. Ethan, Olivia, and George had no idea what was coming. They'd tried to break me, but instead, they'd created their worst nightmare. It was time for revenge. I sat in Bella's office, my hands shaking as I clutched a steaming cup of coffee. The past 48 hours had been a whirlwind of emotions and revelations. Now it was time to fight back. "Are you sure about this, Sarah?" Bella asked, her lawyer face on. "Once we start, there's no going back." I nodded firmly. "They've taken everything from me, Bella. My marriage, my savings, my dignity. It's time they faced the consequences." Bella pulled out a thick file. "I've been doing some digging. Ethan's new job? It's not what he told you. He's been working with his father, embezzling funds from their company." My jaw dropped. "What? How did you find this out?" "I have my sources," Bella said grimly. "And that's not all. Olivia's been complicit in covering it up. They've been planning this for months, Sarah. The affair, draining your accounts. It was all part of their scheme." Anger surged through me, hot and fierce. "We need to expose them. All of them." Bella nodded. "I've set up a meeting with the company's board of directors for tomorrow. But first, we need to confront Ethan and his parents. Are you ready for that?" I took a deep breath. As ready as I'll ever be. An hour later, we pulled up to Ethan's parents' house. My heart pounded as we approached the door. Ethan answered, his face a mixture of relief and apprehension. "Sarah, thank God. We need to talk dash." I pushed past him, Bella at my heels. In the living room, Olivia and George sat, looking surprised at our sudden appearance. "Well," Olivia sniffed, "I see you've come to your senses." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, I've come to my senses all right. I know everything." The color drained from George's face. Ethan stepped forward, his hands raised placatingly. "Sarah, whatever you think you know dash. Save it," I snapped. "I know about the embezzlement. I know you've been working with your father, not some new company. And I know you've all been planning this for months." Silence fell over the room. Olivia was the first to recover. "You have no proof," she hissed. Bella stepped forward, dropping the file on the coffee table. "Actually, we do. Bank records, company documents, even emails detailing your plans. It's all here." Ethan collapsed onto the couch, his head in his hands. George looked like he might be sick. "Why?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why go to all this trouble? Why not just divorce me if you were so unhappy?" Olivia stood, her eyes flashing. "Because you didn't deserve any of this. You couldn't give Ethan children. You couldn't make him happy. We had to protect him, protect our family's legacy. Her words hit me like a physical blow. Years of pain and struggle, reduced to nothing in her eyes. You're wrong, I said quietly. I gave everything to this family. And this is how you repay me. I turned to Ethan. Tomorrow, we're meeting with the board of directors. You have until then to come clean, or I'll do it for you. As we turned to leave, Ethan grabbed my arm. Sarah, please. We can work this out. I'll give you anything you want. Just don't do this. I jerked away from him. You've already taken everything from me, Ethan. Now it's my turn. We walked out, leaving them in stunned silence. As we drove away, I felt a mix of emotions. Anger, sadness, but also a strange sense of liberation. Bella glanced at me. Are you okay? I nodded slowly. I will be. Tomorrow's going to change everything, isn't it? Yes, Bella agreed. Are you ready for that? I looked out the window, watching the familiar streets of my old life fade away. I'm ready for whatever comes next. They thought they could break me, but they've only made me stronger. As we drove into the uncertainty of my new future, one thing was clear. The old Sarah was gone. In her place was a woman ready to fight for justice, no matter the cost. Tomorrow, the real battle would begin. My hands trembled as I dialed Stella's number. The board meeting was in an hour, and this was my last move before everything would change. Hello. Stella's voice was hesitant. Stella, it's Sarah, Ethan's wife. I paused, letting the words sink in. We need to talk. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I didn't know Dash. I know. I cut her off. But I need your help. Ethan, his parents, they've been lying to both of us. And I'm about to expose everything. I quickly filled her in on the embezzlement, the planned betrayal. With each revelation, I could hear Stella's breath catching. Oh my God, she whispered. I had no idea. What do you need me to do? I need you to tell the truth, Stella. All of it. Can you come to the board meeting? There was a pause, then a determined, I'll be there. As I hung up, Bella touched my arm. Are you ready for this? I nodded, a steely resolve settling over me. Let's end this. The boardroom was tense when we arrived. Ethan, George, and Olivia sat on one side, their faces a mix of anger and fear. The board members looked confused and concerned. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. Thank you all for coming. I know this is unusual, but I have information that affects this company and everyone in this room. I laid out everything, the embezzlement, the affair, the plot to drain our accounts. With each revelation, the room grew more silent. Ethan's face was ashen, while Olivia looked like she might explode. These are baseless accusations, she finally burst out. You have no proof. That's when Bella stepped forward, distributing copies of the documents we'd gathered. Actually, we do. Bank records, emails, company documents, it's all here. The board members pored over the papers, their expressions growing darker by the minute. George slumped in his chair, while Ethan stared at the table, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Suddenly, the boardroom door opened. Stella walked in, her head held high despite her obvious nervousness. Who are you? One of the board members asked. I'm Stella Foster, she said, her voice shaking slightly. I was Ethan's mistress. The room erupted in murmurs. Ethan's head snapped up, his eyes wide with panic. Stella continued, her voice growing stronger. Everything Sarah has told you is true. Ethan told me he was divorced, that his family supported our relationship. I had no idea about the embezzlement or any of this. As Stella spoke, I watched the last vestiges of Ethan's world crumble around him. Olivia was red-faced, spluttering denials, while George sat in stunned silence. The board chairman stood, his face grim. In light of these revelations, we'll need to launch a full investigation. Mr. Miller, Mr. Roberts, you're both suspended effective immediately. We'll be contacting the authorities. As security arrived to escort Ethan and his parents out, Ethan made one last desperate attempt. He grabbed my arm, his eyes pleading. Sarah, please. We can still fix this. I love you. For a moment, I felt a flicker of the love I once had for him. But then I remembered all the lies, all the betrayal. I pulled my arm away. No, Ethan. We can't. It's over. As they were let out, I felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, sadness, but also a sense of triumph. I had taken back control of my life. Bella squeezed my hand. You did it, Sarah. It's over. But as I watched Ethan being led away in handcuffs, Olivia's venomous glare burning into me, I realized it wasn't over. This was just the beginning. No, I said quietly. Now we finish what they started. The real battle was just beginning, and I was ready for whatever came next. I stood on the sidewalk outside Ethan's parents' house, a suitcase in each hand. The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawn, a stark contrast to the chaos that had unfolded in the past few days. Bella's car idled at the curb, ready for our swift departure. But I had one last thing to do. I marched up to the front door and rang the bell. Olivia answered, her face a mask of barely contained fury. What are you doing here? She hissed. I smiled, a cold, satisfied smile. I'm here to collect my things, Olivia. And to say goodbye. She stepped aside, reluctantly letting me in. George sat in his armchair, looking older and more defeated than I'd ever seen him. Ethan was nowhere to be seen. Where's Ethan? I asked, though I already knew the answer. George spoke, his voice hollow. He's been arrested. The company pressed charges. I nodded, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. I'm sorry it came to this. But you left me no choice. Olivia's eyes flashed. You've ruined everything. Our family, our reputation. No. I cut her off firmly. You did that yourselves. I just exposed the truth. I moved through the house, efficiently packing my remaining belongings. As I worked, I could feel their eyes on me, a mixture of anger and disbelief. Finally, I stood in the living room, my bags packed. There's one more thing you should know, I said, my voice steady. I'm not leaving empty-handed. Olivia's eyebrows shot up. What are you talking about? I pulled out a document from my purse. This is the deed to my old apartment. The one I owned before I married Ethan. The one I never sold, despite your insistence. Their faces paled as realization dawned. You see, I continued, I always had a backup plan. I never fully trusted this family, and now I know why. So while you thought you were draining our accounts, leaving me with nothing, I was quietly preparing for this day. George slumped further in his chair, while Olivia's face contorted with rage. You can't do this, she sputtered. After everything we've done for you. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Done for me? You've done nothing but try to break me, control me, mold me into your perfect daughter-in-law. Well, guess what? I'm done. I'm taking back control of my life. I picked up my bags and headed for the door. As I reached for the handle, I turned back one last time. Oh, and Olivia? You were wrong about one more thing. I can have children. Ethan and I struggled with fertility because of him, not me. Another secret he kept from you. The look of shock on her face was almost worth all the pain they'd put me through. As I walked out the door for the last time, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I climbed into Bella's car, my heart lighter than it had been in years. Ready? Bella asked, a proud smile on her face. I nodded, looking back at the house one last time. More than ready. As we drove away, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The pain, the betrayal, the fight to reclaim my life. I wasn't the same woman who had moved into that house all those months ago. I was stronger now, wiser, and finally free. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, I was excited about the future. I had my apartment, my job, and most importantly, my self-respect back. Bella glanced at me as we turned onto the highway. So, what's next for Sarah Miller? I smiled, feeling a surge of hope and determination. I don't know exactly, but whatever it is, it'll be on my terms. No more living for others. No more compromising who I am. From now on, I'm writing my own story. As we drove towards my old apartment, my new beginning, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The battle was over, and against all odds, I had won. Not just against Ethan and his family, but against the doubts and insecurities that had held me back for so long. The future was mine to shape, and I was ready for whatever came next. This wasn't an ending, I realized. It was a new beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would lead.